Hello, fellow residents of Tamriel. It is Abiv, and once again, I am back. I promised some videos that I've been doing with some different DPSs right now, and right now I want to go over the Magicka Arcanist that I've been using. I've been really enjoying this build. Obviously, the Arcanist is very overpowered at the moment. Everybody knows that. It is getting a nerf real soon, coming up with it update 41. Um, I don't know how big of a nerf that's going to be. 7% on each tick of the rune or the fate carver, the beam. So 7% doesn't seem like a whole lot. I wanted to get on the PTS and test it, but I don't own Necrom on the PC, and I don't play on there very often, so I didn't really get a chance to mess around with the Arcanist at this point. But regardless, the build that I got here is maybe different. I don't know. I don't know what other people are doing with their Arcanists. I'm not paying attention to it, to be honest with you. But the build that I'm using right now really works for me, and it may work for some of you. The trial dummy numbers are not as high as everybody else is getting, or your top, you know, 10% are getting, or top 5%. I don't know how that math is working out right now, but it is hitting over 100k on the trial dummy. I get between 105 and 108 with it currently. I know some other people that are getting a little bit higher with something very similar. I'm not using all the same abilities as other people and whatnot, but to go over it real quick, let's just check the character street or sheet. Character street. The character sheet. Let's bar swap here. There we go. So while we're in our front bar here, we're looking at 31,000 max magicka, 23,000 max health, 17,000 max stamina. Recoveries are all pretty low, but with this Arcanist, it's not that bad, honestly. So like I can take this even into 4-man content and really not struggle with resources, to be completely honest with you, especially with putting, slotting the right CPs in our red tree. Our spell damage sits at 5149. Our spell critical sits at 50.2. Penetration is at 6262. I'm being invited to a party, apparently. Poe, you're going to have to hold on a second, please. And resistances sit at 13 and 12k. Now, obviously, when I go through some different buffs and whatnot, this stuff does change a little bit. So just for a quick comparison there. We're looking at, over 20k in resistances, which makes you a little bit more hardy. I am using a set that, busts my weapon and spell damage too. Just to get into it, honestly, let's just start off. First off, we are using Maelstrom's Perfected Inferno Staff. If you don't have the perfected version of this, not a big deal. But I think after the goof up they had during the Orsinium event there, the guild event or whatever it was called, people were getting perfected weapons on running it normal. So I think most people that at least knew about that have perfected weapons now from there. But if you don't, the non-perfected version works very well also. It's just a difference in penetration, which doesn't really mean a whole lot, to be honest with you. We are running this infused, and we are running the weapon and spell damage glyph on it for the extra 452 weapon and spell damage. We are using One Piece Slime Crawl. This is just for the 771 critical chance. We are using the Velothi Urza Mage Amulet. This is very good for Arcanists. With that beam going so long, it's a keeping up a light attack rotation isn't as important. I guess you could say it isn't as uh, fruitful, so to speak, with other builds where the light attack rotation really helps put pump out a lot of damage. So we use the amulet here because it gives us offensive penetration and increases our damage done to monsters by 15%, gives us our minor force at all times for 10% more critical damage, but it does reduce your light and heavy attack damage by 99%. Since during beam phases we can't light attack and it's a 5-second beam almost, this works out very well for us, so it's a really good option for your Arcanist. We are using deadly jewelry along with this. All of our jewelry is in Bloodthirsty, all of it with weapon and spell damage enchantments. I am wearing one piece of deadly on the body. I'm wearing my arm cops to make sure that I, have a 5-piece set when I am on my front bar with my deadly inferno staff, which I do run in precise, and I'm kind of looking forward and moving ahead on the update 41 coming with poison damage having a execute type effect to it where it deals more damage when enemies are lower on health. So I have the poison damage glyph on here because you can proc the poison status effect quite often with an Arcanist right now, and when the update 41 comes, I think keeping up that poison status effect is gonna help put out a good bit of damage. But once again, that's something I need to test when I can, when I'm able to do so when 41 hits live servers here. The other 5-piece I am wearing is Coral Riptide. This was a little bit different. Some people will put like Whirl on right here. Some people will put, some people use Whirl. Some people use Pillar. I've seen people use all kinds of stuff, honestly. There's all kinds of different combinations that can give you decent damage output. But I've decided to go with Coral Riptide. I do have everything in Divines. Everything has a Magica enchantment on it. This is a medium armor set, but I'm wearing 5 medium on the body, or 6 medium on the body, and then I have my 1 light on the head. I'm wearing the medium for the medium armor passives that give extra critical damage and extra weapon and spell damage. So that is the reason for the medium armor on the body, even though I am a Magica based toon. And this set is the set that comes out of Dreadsail Reef, and this is the one where you got to play that little stamina mini game. Like when you're right around that 33% stamina mark, you're getting 740 bonus weapon and spell damage. With this Arcanist, the way I have it set up, it works very well for me. I'll explain it to you here once we get into the abilities. Champion points, red and green, you can do what you want as always. I do suggest having your, actually, right here. I do suggest having either your Bloody Renewal or your Siphoning Spells right here to help you regain Magica and Stamina, or Magica or Stamina, or if you want to, take off, Fortified and lose a little bit of armor in the process, you can have both on, so you're always getting back Magica and Stamina at the same time for killing enemies. Goes a long way in helping us out here with the fact that we are using the Bewitched Sugar Skulls right now, which is all max stats and some health recovery, but that's it. It doesn't do anything for our stamina or our Magica recovery. We are using the Thief Mundus Stone. I skipped over these blue ones. Sorry about that, guys. So slotted in the blue tree, I do have Biting Aura, and I have Thaumaturge. These are your damage over time and your area of effect damages. This is your beam and everything basically you do. These Arcanists are really dot demons, so to speak. So I have both of those filled out and slotted. I have my Wrathful Strikes filled out and slotted. And because of some of the passives the Arcanists have, it's really easy to get to that 125 crit cap. So I'm not really worried about slotting Fighting Finesse or even Backstabber, because even in groups where I'm not fully optimized, I'm still going to be really close or at crit cap. So I go here with Untamed Aggression, just for the extra weapon and spell damage. If you have somebody in group creating off balance, you could definitely change this out for your exploiter for more damage to off balance enemies. And I've seen this work actually very well with like a weapons expert as well right here. If you're not wearing the amulet that I'm wearing, but since we're wearing the amulet, obviously we're not putting anything in there. Make sure all your other passives that you need that don't require being slotted to be active are filled in as well. Now, as we'll go visit our skill line here. So our skill line is we have all of our passives in all of our class skills. We have all of our destruction staff passives filled in. All of our light, except for grace at this point. I could put it in there. I just don't do it. Same with improved sneak on the medium armor. We're not wearing any heavy armor at all, so I don't have any points in this. I do have my Fighters Guild passives all filled in except for Bounty Hunter because I don't go into Cyrodiil. And we do have all of our Undaunted passives. I have 1 point in continuous attack just so we run faster on our mount for the major gallop. All of the high elf passives, that I am a high elf. Dark elf is another good choice for this as well. And I have my medicinal use passive in my alchemy also. Skills come down to, this is where I'm going to change a little bit from other people. I use Blockade of Fire here rather than Unstable Wall. This has a 15-second uptime, and I've come to find out with this 15-second uptime I can get two fully charged beams off with my rotation before having to reapply any dots. So I'm beaming longer, so it seems to do better for me at least. You can always do Unstable Wall and be bar swapping more if you like, but this setup for how I'm doing it works for me at least. I'm using Fulminating Rune. This is out of the Herald of Tome skill. It's just a good damage over time, and 6 seconds after popping it does a nice explosion damage too. Damages everything within 7 meters of the thing that you originally marked. I'm using Inspired Scholarship. This is basically slotted for the Major Brutality and Major Sorcery. And we keep this active at all times as well because it buffs the damage of our Arcanist skills. And when we use an Arcanist skill and don't have any crux, and when it buffs it, it creates a crux. It only create it if you have none, and it won't create it if you have one. But the way I do my rotation, I use this as a really nice crux generator, so I'm not having to, use my crux generators more, too much. I got the Crux Weaver armor here. This is just for my major resolve, and this also, anything that damages you, it applies minor breach to them, and if you take damage while this is up, it generates a crux. That can happen once every 5 seconds. I keep elemental susceptibility on the bar right here. This is mainly just because I have it here. It's a flex slot. You put whatever you want here, honestly, but I keep this here a lot of times just to make sure that when I'm running randoms, that I'm able to apply breach, because it's not all the time that you get a a tank in randoms. So I keep this on here for that specific reason. I am using the Languid Eye. You can use the Tide King's Gaze morph of this if you would prefer. This the damage from this ultimate is unbelievable. It's very heavy hitting. And with this morph, every half second it increases in damage by 7%. So every time it ticks, it goes up. So it ticks for damage, ticks for damage. It just keeps going up and up and up. This thing has the ability, you can, if you recast it while it's active, it will move for you. So if the boss steps out of it, you can reposition it. The problem is it only being a 6-second uptime. By the time you do that and it starts moving there, it's already gone anyway. So that's the downfall to it, honestly. The Tide King's Gaze morph of this will actually follow the original target, and if that target dies, if there's something else within 5 meters, it'll focus it then. So it's definitely a little bit different of an option, not as much damage, but it'll hop around if it needs to, and it'll follow, so whatever you prefer. Plus, this doesn't have a lock-on, the Languid Eye morph that I use doesn't have a lock-on feature like the Tides King's Gaze does. So I can't tell you the number of times that I've accidentally thrown this eye and it's been completely off target. It happens. I just chalk it up to, well, I got to get better at that. And it can be a little bit tricky at first, but you do get used to it and you get pretty good at pinpointing it, to be honest with you. On our front bar, this is our deadly bar. I have escalating rune blades. This is a flex spot. I only have the escalated rune blades on here right now because of the extra penetration it's providing for it being a Herald of the Tome skill. And for the more that you have on your bar, you get extra penetration from it. That's a passive in the Herald of the Tome line, wherever it is, right here. Splintered Secrets. You get an extra penetration. It's flexible. You can put something else here if you want. I've messed around with a couple different things, but I mean, if there's something else you want to put there, maybe the reconstructive domain for the minor intellect, endurance, and courage, and that it gives you. That's also nice. Plus, it's a less than 1,000-point heal every second as well. But it's a nice little utility thing if needed. So that's definitely something you put there in place of that. I also have the Cephaliarch's Flail. This is my main crux generator. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm using to generate my crux all the time. And it's this thing's like a triple threat. It does damage. It heals you. It immobilizes for 3 seconds. It marks things with abyssal ink for 20 seconds. And anything that's marked with abyssal ink takes 5% increased damage from you. And also, it's got an execute phase to it. It deals 100% more damage to enemies with less than 50% health. So at 50% below on the health bars, it's doing even more damage. So, I mean, I think that's more than a triple threat than I just referred to it as. I mean, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a quadruple threat. Like, I don't know. This thing's... It's just it's an awesome ability. Now this is I want to show you. I forgot to mention this earlier. I'm using the stamina morph of the Fulminating Room, and I'm using the stamina morph of the Cephaliarch's Flail. Plus, I'm using my Barbed Trap, which uses stamina also. These abilities is what helps me keep my stamina low, but it keeps me from depleting my stamina, so that so that when I'm using my beam, my stamina is still going back up. I'm not using stamina to beam because my magicka is the higher, so it helps for that Coral Riptide. It gives me a good easy way to play that mini game to keep my stamina low and still put out high amounts of damage. The Exhausting Fate Carver. This is our main damage ability. We're only firing this off when we have 3 crux available. It's very easy to generate 3 crux and can be done very quickly. The Barbed Trap, as I said, it's here as well. I have my Camouflaged Hunter. This is only slotted just for the Major Savagery and the Major Prophecy for the weapon and spell critical. And Flawless Dawnbreaker. This is only here for the passive for the Mages Guild. So since I have 3 Mages Guild abilities on that bar right there, and because I have that on there, because of my Slayer, increases your weapon and spell damage by 3% for each fighter's guild ability slotted. I am getting another 9% weapon and spell critical, or weapon and spell damage, because of having those 3 abilities slotted. One thing you're going to see here is that you probably noticed immediately is I am using an Inferno staff. Meta dictates daggers here. I have just as much success with the Inferno staff as I do the daggers. Even though, when I put the daggers on, I do have literally 600 more weapon and spell damage than I do with my Inferno staff. But what a lot of people maybe don't realize or sleep on, or I don't know what, but like when you go to our destruction staff here, the ancient knowledge perk here, your Inferno staffs increase your damage done with damage over time and status effects by 12%. So yeah, I'm missing out on some weapon and spell damage from not using daggers, but my beam still hits just as hard as if I'm carrying my daggers because of this passive. So this is why I elect to use a Inferno staff. Maybe it doesn't work that way for other people, but it does for me, so that's why I use it. If it doesn't work for you, by all means, use daggers. The rotation, very simple. We start off our fight. If you're the type of person that wants to, pre-game your Coral Riptide, you can always run in and cast Camouflage Hunter once or twice. It's nothing that aggroes anything. It doesn't aggro anything. It just takes stamina away for using it, so that you already reduced your stamina pool before you start the fight, and you've kicked in the extra weapon and spell damage from the Coral Riptide. But I always make sure that when I run in, I am buffing with my Inspired Scholarship and with my Rune Cruxweaver armor, sorry. So, these will both be active when I run into the fight. And after the fight starts, the tank grabs aggro, turns them away from us. I am using the blockade. I am using the... let's just go through it here real quick. I'm going to use the blockade. I'm going to use the rune. And then I'm going to bar swap. I'm going to flail 2 times. Have my crux up and then beam. I'm also going to apply trap as soon as I can. So let's try this over here. Theoretically, in a perfect world, you want to be able to run in and throw your trap down first, and if that's what you want to do, you can. So you can buff yourself up. You can run in, throw your trap down, bar swap, blockade, rune, 2 flails, and then beam. 2 flails and beam. I've slowed this down than what I would normally use it, so I'm going to have things drop off, but then I will flail and then use trap, and then bar swap and reapply again. Then beam, flails and beam. Flails and beam. Flail and trap, bard swap. So I mean, it's a pretty simple. It's a pretty simple rotation for me, at least. It might not be that way for other people, especially if you're not good at bar swapping and weaving and whatnot. But practice with it and you can get it. But real quick, I will go over. I will do a complete I'll do a complete parse on this 3 million just to show you exactly what it gets as soon as my stamina comes, or my magicka comes back. I'm going to apply my elemental susceptibility, so I'm getting breach as well. I'm making sure that I am beaming when I have 3 Crux available. So I'm getting the full damage output of that beam. And I'm going to drop ultimates when I'm on cooldowns. Just like so. So right there, slowing it down, not really going, try hard on it, 55,005 on a 3 million dummy. I've hit over 60 with this build. They're doing exactly this. So it has a huge damage output in 4-man content, has great damage output in trial content, 12-man content. I'm going to attach a 105k parse on the trial dummy when this video is over. But that's really all I got for you. I don't know if I forgot anything. I'm sorry, but I try to make these as quick as possible and try not to bore you to death in the process. But I appreciate anyone that's tuned in. Thank you very much. Appreciate it greatly, and happy adventuring, guys.